4 o'clock each and every day. Our show starts, and that is when the Chris Russell Show ends. And the Rooster's been nice enough on a Friday to grace us with his presence. What's up, dude? How are you?
Hello, Craig. How are you?
I'm good. That you said that in a way that was like you felt surprised.
Well, when Anthony walked in and asked me to come on, I was like, because I was listening, because I'm being that you're not here today in studio, I'm just kind of taking over your space, or not moving at basically a very glacial pace is how I would probably put it. So I was a little bit surprised. I was listening to you, talk about your breakdown of the quarterbacks and all that stuff. I've been so focused on the AFC and NFC championship and who's obviously going to be the head coach. That's had to take a little bit of a back burner for me, but man, am I intrigued. I mean, this is going to be, look, from a radio perspective, even though having the number 2 overall pick isn't always the best thing in terms of intrigue and possibilities, it is pretty intriguing, and I think will keep us going because there's a couple of different ways they can go.
Yeah, without question. And I think it obviously means that we had a not very fun season to cover.
Yes.
That is the nature of
Correct.
Having the number 2 pick.
That is confirmed.
But I do think, I will say, we're going to play next our interview with Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl. You obviously know Jim from your years going down there and just being around the NFL. And he was the one who threw out to us, hey, don't be surprised if they trade back. And does the new coach want to run it back with Sam Howell? And I think we have all dismissed that as a possibility. I think realistically, when you cover the team every day, you're obviously going to know a little bit better than the national people. But I do think it is worth pointing out that the idea that they could trade back should still be on the table. And to me, next week is super intriguing in that way. And I teased Chris, there could be one quarterback in the next group of 3 that could switch groups, that could bust that first group of 3. And I think it's Bo Nix. I think the Oregon quarterback is going to rise tremendously in this process. And I also am very curious to see what happens with Drake Maye, who's kind of been seen as this number 2 guy. But realistically, man, the tape isn't that good from this year from the people that have watched it. And so if you got one guy who interviews great and his tape is just getting better throughout his college career, one guy who had not a great year and is maybe riding a little bit on preseason hype, I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix enters the equation. And if there's 4 quarterbacks in that top group, that definitely affects how Washington has to think about it.
Yeah, so a couple of things for me. And I still have a lot of work to do, so let me be clear on that. I wasn't in love with Drake Maye when I was first kind of thinking about, the number 2 overall pick and assuming that Caleb goes number 1, Chicago, so on and so forth, which I guess we can't say for absolute certainty.
Seems maybe highly likely, but
it seems highly likely. Correct. But maybe it's a different team. Who knows? But it seems likely that he's going to go number 1. But Drake Maye, to me, when I walked away, I watched a lot of that Virginia game on that Saturday night. I don't remember, in mid-October. I wasn't thrilled with him. The last 2 games at Clemson, at NC State, tough environments, road environments, but I wasn't wow, this guy. Yet you watch a bunch of the cut-ups, and I know you watch way, 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 way more than I'll ever be able to watch. You watch a bunch of the cut-ups, and you do see a kid with a juicy arm, size, just what you want, right? Can flick the wrist, can do whatever he wants. But I haven't been able, and maybe this is just me, I haven't been able to reconcile with what I've seen at other times. But is that me looking for negatives? Is that me looking for, he wasn't great every game, and I shouldn't hold that against him? Kind of like Ben Johnson, and I'm just going to, make a weird comparison here.
Sure.
Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions offense isn't great every time you see them. But by and large, he's put up really good ranking statistics, numbers, productions, design, this, that, and the other thing. But, if you watch the wrong game, you're going to walk away going, Ben Johnson's not for me. Am I doing that for Drake Maye? Are you doing that for Drake Maye?
Well, I think part of the equation there is how often, right?
Yeah.
Because, if you go watch, I'm trying to think if there's a good football player for this. You could do it with Sam Howell. If you want to watch the Sam Howell highlight tape, Sam Howell's one of the greatest quarterbacks that's ever played. If you want to make a 2-minute cut up, like some of the stuff that dude did this year was nuts. The throw to Terry against Denver, some of the running around, like the toughness. You want to make a highlight tape of Sam Howell? Sure. But watch every game, watch every snap, and see how often it's that versus the other stuff.
Right.
If you want to take J.R. Smith or Jamal Crawford's best games as NBA players, like those dudes scored 50 multiple times in their career. They also weren't the guys you wanted to be the best player on your team because your team wasn't going to be very good because they did that 3 times a season. They crossed 40 3 times a season and 50 once, as opposed to LeBron, who averages 30 a night. So I think it's a matter of like trying to predict, and this is what makes the NFL draft so hard, Chris, is like how often would you get in your system as an NFL head coach or an NFL OC and a GM? How often would you get good Drake Maye where he shows off that beautiful touch on the deep ball, where he can play pinball and then make a play versus he just threw it into the ground again? Or like, why did you take that sack? Why can you never get the ball out on time? And by the way, Caleb Williams is kind of the same way. He's better than Maye and his good, but that dude is never on time.
So, I mean, there's so many questions that I have about all of these guys, but and I know it's your show, but I wanted to ask because you're more down so far from what I can tell on these guys than I was expecting. Because I thought from afar, and again, granted, I'm not either watching a lot of USC at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. Just being honest.
Not me.
But I mean, I've seen a lot of cut-ups. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen some parts of games. I look at Caleb Williams as being more, off-platform play extension, razzle-dazzle, as opposed to just absolutely breaking your back from inside the pocket. Is that fair or no?
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally fair. And I think the question that people have is, like, how much of that was the offense? How much of that was his O-line? How much of that was the skill position around him? And can he do it? But I think, like, we obviously all were paying attention to that sack to pressure ratio number for Sam earlier this year. The numbers for pretty much all these quarterbacks in that number in college, which tends to translate pretty well to the NFL, are not good.
Yeah, they're a little low. They're a little lower on Maye and Caleb than they are on Jayden Daniels, right?
Yes, and Michael Penix's number is like elite. And so if you want to look at that, like, maybe Penix is the guy from the pocket that I think is most intriguing, but like it becomes like, okay, how much did you do it in college? He's 24. He had multiple serious injuries. Like there's other stuff, but it's also like this is why you can't just watch college football and say you can do it there, you can do it here. And it's really hard. Like there are some skills that translate. Like if you can cover man-to-man in college in the SEC, you're probably going to be all right in the NFL. Like, I always go, the NBA is my wheelhouse in a lot of the scouting stuff. I know more of some of the and honestly, it's an easier process. But like if you can rebound in college basketball, you'll rebound well in the NBA. That trait has traditionally translated very well. If you're Caleb Williams running around like a crazy person, it doesn't mean you can't learn to play from the pocket in the NFL, and it doesn't mean you can do that in the NFL either. So it's such a difficult projection, which is why quarterback is a bigger crapshoot than say, here's a better, more direct football comparison. Logan will tell you, evaluating offensive tackles, really easy. If you can do it well in college, you're probably going to be pretty good in the NFL. And so that is why some of these positions are seen as more crapshooty, but like, what are you going to do? Not take a quarterback because it's a crapshoot? No, you need one.
And just like to, before we run out of time, you mentioned Jim Nagy was talking about possibly trading down, and you just mentioned Penix best in the pocket. And I mean, when you watch Penix in Washington, you see a surgeon. You see a surgeon from the pocket. But again, there's all sorts of concerns there. One of the things that I floated, and I don't know if you've talked about this, maybe you have, and I've missed it. As I try and, listen to you guys on the way home in traffic and beating my brains out and on the phone and whatever.
The only way that you exist in traffic.
Exactly.
Famously.
I've said this. What if you don't love these guys for various reasons, right? And I know it's hard to turn your nose at any of these three guys at the top. But what if you say, like Penix or Bo Nix a little bit more, and you say, all right, maybe we trade out of 2, maybe we go to 5, 6, whoever wants to jump up. Get some other help for our football team. And then what if you package a couple of the second-round picks or maybe another, a later first round pick and a second round pick to move back into the, totally. 20, 21, 22 range of the first round and grab one of these guys. Again, a Nix, a Penix, somebody like that there. And now you're getting more help for your football team and you're getting better value theoretically and maybe a little bit more of a secure, surefire projection. Is that fair?
No, I think that's, I don't know about the surefire projection part. And I think that's the part that makes it hard. If you could tell me, like, if we want to use Madden ratings, right? Mm-hmm. If you tell me that, like, I might get a 95 in Jayden Daniels, but he might bust, or I could definitely get an 88 in Bo Nix, like, and trade down and get more stuff. Like, I might just be like, give me the sure thing. Yeah, but the problem is that sounds better because the risk feels lower because it's a lower pick. Realistically, it's the same crapshoot. Like, Bo Nix might also be a bust, or Michael Penix might totally be a bust. Which is why this is so hard. But I don't think that's crazy either. And I think a lot of fans have already decided if you don't take a quarterback at 2, like you're taking crazy pills. And I think to your point where we are 100% in alignment, which always I think terrifies the both of us, but where we are 100% in alignment is if you don't love one of these guys or you don't think there's that big of a difference between them, maximizing your value becomes important. Because like even – I haven't even gotten this far in the draft yet, but Logan's watched all these guys at this point, and we were talking about it on Take Command the other day. Like Joe Milton, the quarterback out of Tennessee, that dude throws the ball 85 yards in the air. Like he is going to be a top of the second round guy that is as physically gifted as anyone in any draft. Now, is he accurate? Is he on time? Does he process it well? Like all that stuff is why he's going to fall. But from a pure trait standpoint, like that dude's insane. And so if you fall in love with that and you think like we know how to coach that and you have a good interview with him and everything, do you just say we'll take Marvin Harrison it too? Right. Like Marvin Harrison's going to the Hall of Fame. Right. Like, and I'm not talking about his dad. I'm talking about Junior. Yeah. If we think that dude's a Hall of Fame receiver and we're pretty confident we can get Joe Milton with the 4th pick of the second round, we'll do that. Like, I don't think any of that is unreasonable. That's why it's fun to talk about this stuff in January because everything is on the table. And we're going to learn a lot more starting next week with the Senior Bowl and then obviously Indianapolis and on down the rest of the scouting process.
Yeah, you got it. I'm with you. And by the way, it doesn't scare me to agree with you. I mean, I feel almost better that, because I'm considered the wackadoo of this radio station.
Which, by the way, very high bar.
I mean, yes, exactly. And I guess we'll all be wacky on stage next Friday night in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, it makes me feel better because, you're considered, more scholarly and smarter and all that stuff, right? Certainly compared to me.
I don't know. It's smarter.
I don't know. But I mean, I do feel better that you're not like, Chris, you're a big bleeping dummy. By maybe wanting to trade down.
You are spot on here, my friend. And by the way, as Chris just said, we will be at Bethesda Theater next Friday. It's 106.7 The Fan versus the Team 980 Live. Obviously talking about what they'll do with the number 2 pick, what they'll do in free agency. And by that point, we'll have our Super Bowl 58 matchup. We'll predict all of that, all off air, on stage, and uncensored. Get tickets today at BethesdaTheater.com, and it's sponsored by Main Street Bank. Cheer local, bank local. Put their team in your office. Visit mstreetbank.com for more information. Rooster, appreciate some time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you.
Have a great weekend. When we get back, that conversation with Senior Bowl Executive Director Jim Nagy.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.